What's up, my fellow wealth creators? Matty Ice here. I just did another awesome podcast with my friend Matt Seibert from Life 180. And I wanted to share it with you guys because we just went into so much detail about a lot of the problems in the industry right now with people selling IUL and not disclosing all of the risks. We talk about a lot of what those risks are, so that if you are a consumer considering an IUL, these are things that you absolutely need to be aware of that are often not disclosed up front. So you don't really know what you're putting all your money into. And it can be really, it could cause a lot of problems later on down the road. And then agents, if you're an agent selling IUL, we talk a lot about WFG and MLM style companies selling these products and all the problems associated with that, all the red flags and things that you need to be aware of. If you're an agent selling these things, you have a moral obligation to watch videos like this to learn the other side that a lot of the times is not being disclosed to you as the agent about all the things that can go wrong with these products. And they can have a really bad impact. There can be really bad consequences for people long term for these things. And if you're selling these IULs, you have to understand how these things actually work. And that's what we really talk about in this video, in this podcast. And Matt is just, Matt Seibert, he's just a wealth of knowledge because he used to sell IUL. He did it for 8 years in an MLM style company and finally saw the light, is the way I would describe it. And now he's on a mission to expose all of the things that are putting so many people at risk with these very risky products, IUL. All right, so make sure you stick to the end. We had an awesome conversation. There's some really good information here about IUL, companies like WFG. We're kind of talking broadly about MLM style companies that do this, but just in general, just a lot of really good information when it comes to IUL. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Drop some feedback down below in the comments. Make sure you check out all the links in the description as well. We're going to have some really good supplemental resources and training and things like that based on our conversation in this video. And if you don't mind, hit that like button. Always appreciate it. So enjoy the conversation. Let me know what you think. Let's get into it. All right, we're live. Man, I'm excited. Guys, what's up, fellow wealth creators? I've got another awesome podcast for you today. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of IUL stuff. And I know sometimes it seems like I'm beating a dead horse talking about and bashing IUL. It's not even really bashing it. It's just exposing the risks, letting you guys know how risky these things are. And just red flags to look for. I just want you to be careful. Okay, I want you to know exactly what you're putting your money into. And here to talk with me about this today is Matt Seibert from the Life 180 team. And we're going to be breaking down IULs, companies as well. There's some specific companies we want to be careful with. And Matt just has an incredible story. And Matt, I'll let you share it here in a second, but just to give some background, I mean, he used to sell IUL. Now he's with the Life 180 team, and there's very specific reasons for that. That's why I'm really honored to have you on the channel. I've learned so much from you since I joined the team as well. So I really appreciate your time today, man. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll have some fun.
Yeah. So I figured let's start with your backgrounds and your experience with IUL and how you got to the Life 180 team.
Yeah, that's a long story. So I started the industry about 2013, got recruited into an MLM model in the insurance industry. There's a lot of these MLM companies out there, WFG, PHP. Those are probably the top. You got Primerica, a little bit different strategy. Right. FEG, that's Freedom Equity Group. There's a lot. I mean, they're everywhere. Usually what you'll know is if you have to pay to join, you're in an MLM. I don't care what they say. Right. And when you pay to join, they're going to say it's a background check. It's a lie. It's not a background check. It's a membership fee. So you can call them out on that. But sure. I got recruited in that industry like a lot of people do. And they look for people that have full-time income and people that are dissatisfied, that are looking to make extra money, which there's a lot of people out there. And then you get lured into this company overview where they have you come out to their office and meet their leadership team, where you can learn a little bit about the company and they can learn a little bit about you. That's pretty much what you hear. So you go out and, I think they do a good job. It's a play that they put on, that it's the same play they do twice a week. And they got it down to a science. So even down to the laugh and how they make the how they work the audience and stuff like that. Strategically, what they're selling is, I think it's an attractive crusade, attractive narrative story of the middle class and most people in our country that lack financial literacy, and we need to go out help them because the big bad government is not really teaching us, and the story that everybody can get behind and fight for, right?
Sure.
Everything's good up to that point. Everybody's super nice. Everybody's welcoming, best behavior. You just feel emotionally like, man, I feel like I want to be part of this group.
Right.
And then, of course, they invite you to come back the next day. And that's where they really start revealing a lot of these things. And the number one vehicle that most of these companies sell is IUL. Now, when you get into the training, I think really the problem is they don't tell you much about it in the beginning. Right. And then as you go on, there's not that much detail. So for me, I stayed in that type of company for 8 years. Now, somebody can look at me and say, well, after 8 years, how could you not know, Matt? How could you continue to sell something like that? Right. You're smart. How do you do that? Well, here's the thing. They specifically get greenies, so people that have no experience in the industry. And so I didn't have any experience. And the reason why me and a lot of people, it took us a little bit longer. Well, one, they didn't have anybody like Chris Kirkpatrick on YouTube. Tell them the truth. Let's be honest. So, I mean, back in the day when you looked on YouTube, nobody was anti-IUL and nobody was saying anything bad. So there's no reason to look. And then if you call the carriers, I mean, you're calling the carrier for help and they're telling you how to do illustration. So it's like, this carrier's not lying. So there's just a lot of things in place. Right. And here's the magic. What they're really good at is building strong relationships where you really feel wanted and belonging, where to the point, well, you would never question them. There's no way they're teaching me to screw people, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't lie about this.
Never.
Right? Or sell something that can hurt people.
For sure.
So you just assume that what they're telling you is correct.
100%.
And good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you really go into the trainings, the concepts they teach on IUL, well, if you call the carrier and ask them, kind of, they can, it seems like it matches up and no one's going to really dispute it. Right. And so you just go a long time and you just don't know a lot of these things. And so for 8 years, I was under that model and I really thought I was making a difference. I felt good about what I did. It was when COVID happened. It shifted, kind of hit our business model. Because obviously it really involved meeting with people and bringing them over to an overview. So now we had to switch over to Zoom, and so that it was a pretty big challenge. My branch was a little smaller branch. We got impacted. A lot of people quit, and I got to the point where I was just going to walk away and go somewhere else. And I ended up at another company where I decided, you know what, I want to go more independent and just do kind of the same thing and sell IULs and help people and build it from the ground up. And around that time was when I came across Chris's videos from Life 180. And, if you've seen any of his videos, he doesn't really hold back.
No, he definitely does not.
And so I remember clicking on some of the videos and finding myself, I even told Chris this, I didn't like you in the beginning because you were going against my very belief. I was like, who is this guy? This guy doesn't know anything. Oh my gosh. Right. And, YouTube, once you click on something, you get more of it. And next thing you know, he's like all over my damn YouTube feed. And, he had some titles that I clicked on and I listen and I watch, and he really said some things that you really can't dispute. Like for me, at the end of the day, my core, I don't want to screw people. It was just ignorance on my part. And he really did say some things that made me question, and I had to further investigate. So I'm like, well, I can't continue and I can't build this agency without further investigating. So I reached out to the website, reached out to him, and I remember the morning he called. I saw Chris Kirkpatrick come across my iPhone. I'm thinking, oh, here we go. I don't know if this is gonna go well. If we're gonna start running, debating or what. And he was cordial, and he was like, "What's up, man? Just wanted to, follow up." And I told him my story. Hey, this is what I did for 8 years, and you said some things, and I need to know for myself. Fortunately, he lived in my same state, Phoenix. And the next day he drove out to my office and we locked the doors. Nobody was in the office. It was a Saturday morning and we must have spoke for like 3 hours. And the points that he made, we didn't have to go into the nitty gritty. He just, attributes of the IUL and just some characteristics. Right. And I thought to myself, I've never mentioned those characteristics to clients.
Sure.
And I thought, if I would have mentioned those attributes to my clients, would they have bought? And my answer was, I doubt it.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. Right?
They definitely would not have.
Yeah. And that was March 2023. 2023. That was the last day. I never sold an IUL after that. And I said, I just couldn't. And
that's crazy, man.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride. And I told Chris, I said, hey, man, do you have an agency? Like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, man, you totally come work with us. And at the time we had like 10 agents and it's just really exciting to see what we're doing now. But now I'm on a mission because it kind of scared me. Like, wow, I really believed in it. Yeah. And it scared me how ignorant I could be. Right. And I'm so thankful that I met him and he really taught me this stuff. And now like I'm on a mission, I'm on a tear to go out and kind of re-educate people. Right. And help them see it and break that ignorance. So it's been a ride, man. It's been a ride.
I definitely feel you on that, on the mission part. And I'm so grateful for guys like you and Chris, that have kind of started paving the way for us to share in that mission. And I mean, I could tell you I'll say 99.9% certainty that when people like you were talking about the attributes of IUL that Chris was going over, and you thought to yourself, okay, well, if I had disclosed this to people, would they have bought? 99.9% of the time it's going to be no. You know how I know that? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And I when I interviewed Chris the other day, I told, I always share my gratitude for his content because I was sold. I was drinking the IUL Kool-Aid, man. It sounded like the greatest thing. And they always downplay. A lot of times they don't even disclose all the things that can go wrong with it. And it's so misleading. And it doesn't allow people to make an actual educated decision for themselves because you have to know what can happen with these things. With IUL, whole life, it doesn't matter. Like you need to know what can go wrong, what are the risks here, and they don't disclose that. And it's so crazy to me that, like you were saying, you did this for 8 years and had no idea until somebody like Chris came around and explained it to you. And that kind of brings me to the next point I wanted to talk about. And I want to get into also, you and I were talking before this about some WFG agents that you just had a conversation with. I really want to hear about that. You said they were treated pretty bad, but why do you think it is that companies like WFG and PHP, whatever, it seems like they focus so little on the actual education of the product itself. Like they only teach you what you need to know to make it sound really good, but they don't teach you like, okay, these are some of the things that can go wrong that people need to be aware of. And it's so focused on sales, make the sale, right? And you're just assuming that this product's going to help. What do you think the disconnect is there? Like, why is there so little focus on that product knowledge and the things that can go wrong versus just cramming down the sales process? Which seems like that's all they focus on.
Well, there's actually no disconnect. It's designed not like that on purpose. And so there's a couple of factors. You got to think of the top of these companies. There's a couple of things, couple of statistics that they're aware of. 90% of agents quit pretty quickly. Like in that model, I know in the industry, it's probably 90% of agents quit within the first 3 to 5 years. In that model, 90% of agents quit probably within a couple of weeks. Right. Because they understand the fallout. What they do is they're not really focused on product. They're focused on you calling your friends and family and get us in front of them so we can sell them this product, knowing that we got to hurry up and sit down with many as people as possible because you're probably going to quit in 2 weeks. So let's hurry up. Wow. And so what they do is they hurry up, get in front of your crowd, and then they try to replace you before you quit. That's why they say recruit's not a recruit till you have a recruit. So they already know you're probably going to quit in two weeks. So that's why part of their promotion program, you got to recruit 3 people, because they know you're going to quit in 2 weeks. I got 3. So go ahead, buy. I got 3 more people.
Right.
And it's just systematic machine of getting in front of people and then selling them products. And the problem is everybody, they glamorize, wealth and being rich and having, luxury and stuff like that all over. Even the top leadership, they will tell you on your social media, you need to be showing luxury. You need to be showing a certain lifestyle. That's the only thing that sells.
Right.
So this whole, the MLM models, it's not all accidental. It is all by design, and they figured this system out. And that's why they don't need to focus on product. And these companies, because you don't own your business, by the way. So when you write these IULs and you leave, they get all of the renewals forever.
WFG does.
Yeah,
the MLM company does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they don't care whether you come or not. They're going to get the renewals. Right. So, it's a numbers game. 90% of the agents quit, but they, three policies per agent before they quit. All those renewals, every year for years.
Adds up, man, real quick. And WFG has, well, they used to have, I think, what was it, like 70,000 agents. They got a bunch of crazy stuff going on right now. But like, man, those numbers can add up pretty quick. And it's just sad to me, though, that's the business model, because they're selling a product. You're recruiting people to sell a product that they have no knowledge of. They have no idea how it actually works, to people who have no idea how it actually works and how detrimental it's going to be later on in their life when they need it the most, just to make money. Yeah. Like, it's just, man, like so many people are going to get hurt by this. That's why it's so frustrating to me, and why, I share the passion in the mission side of this as well, just to let people know, like, hey, this is what you're actually putting your money into. This is, or like, if you're an agent, this is the type of company that you're getting involved with. It's not all the bells and whistles. It's not all the great stuff on the surface that they like to show you. There's a lot of things you need to be aware of. Yeah. So talk to me about the conversation. You said that you were speaking to some WFG agents. What was it, today? Was it earlier today, or?
Yeah, it was yesterday. Right now we're getting probably 3 to 5 agents calling in from the videos
every day.
Oh yeah. A week. I'm sorry, about a week.
A week.
3 to 5 a week.
That's still,
a lot of them for. Oh no, for sure. They're from WFG. The stories that I hear are just, not surprising at this point. But one yesterday specifically, the person, this is what they did, is they said, hey, part of your promotion, we need to submit an application, right? And so you can actually count for your promotion, but this is just to figure out if you can get approved. And after you're approved, we can figure out what you want to do. So they submitted this IUL application, and then they got approved, and then they convinced her, kind of pushed her in into that direction. Oh, you should keep it. What if you die? And so if you met her, she's a very passive personality. And so I can see why they kind of pushed her into saving it. So she ended up keeping it. And then she couldn't afford it. And so then she called the upline and said, hey, I can't afford it. And then she goes, oh, no problem. What we'll do is we'll drop it down to the minimum.
Oh, my God.
So she dropped it down to the bare minimum. And I took a look at the policy. This was a younger couple. It was level. It wasn't even focused on cash value. It was like near $1 million in death benefit. And I asked her, I said, hey, did you ask for all of this life insurance? Do you guys have kids? She's like, no, I wanted to grow money. And I said, okay. And this is not going to work out. And then I said, hey, when you guys first sat down, did she actually do any type of analysis, like go through your numbers and figure out your needs? She goes, oh, never. This was for a promotion. So it was with Pack Life. So now
real quick, Matt, I just want to confirm that I heard you correctly earlier when you said that. Yeah. So in order to get promoted in the company, part of that process was filling out an IUL application. Yeah. And then they convinced her to keep it.
Yeah. So what they do is they'll have these little tactics. Hey, right now, by the way, you start at a low comp. You're like at 30%. And what they'll say is, hey, we'll bump you up to 40%, but you got to recruit 3 people and get 3 pieces of business. Well, that one piece of business, it could be your own policy.
Right.
But here's the
Okay.
crazy part. The company writes it so they can make commission. You can't even write your own policy.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
That's why when I bring them over and I say, hey,
Dude.
Let's help you with your policy. And they're like, are you going to write it? I said, I'm not going to write it. You're going to write it. And they
Right.
looked at me like, I can do that?
Right. Yes, you can. I just got paid to set up my second policy.
Right. It's sad.
Wow.
Man.
So, and Matt, what's the size of that commission on $1 million death benefit?
The way they had structured, she probably got $5,000, but then when they lowered it, they probably got a little chargeback. But yeah, I mean, $5,000, and it just wasn't even the right policy for them. It was a young couple, no kids.
Oh
it was
my
just
God,
really sad.
man.
Yeah.
Now, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, my skin's crawling right now.
Oh, you have no idea.
Dude, that is so egregious, man. I don't know how that stuff is legal. But so for the part of the audience that is kind of new to the exposure, or is just new to the exposure of like what can go wrong with IUL. So like, just give a brief description about why that is such a problem. That type of policy, what they did. Why is that such a problem? What is the risk there? What kind of problems come up with that type of policy?
For sure. And it's all policy. So you can't be mad at an IUL because an IUL is an IUL. It is what it is, right? It's how it's marketed.
Right.
So it's, you can't argue every IUL. There's fees that increase every year, no matter what. You can't get around that, right? Actually, you can get around
annual renewable term.
Yeah. So you have a product, and let's remove the word IUL. You have this thing that you're thinking about buying, right? It could be anything. It becomes more expensive every single year. There's nothing you can do about it. There is one thing, but I'm going to get to that. It goes up every single year, and it could never be paid off. The expense is going to be there forever, right? Yep. So just by that in itself, like, what was your interest in getting a product? So what's the upside? Well, here's the upside. If you put in enough money to cover the costs and everything above the costs, there is a potential where the money can grow.
Right.
So that's like the upside. Who the heck would want to buy anything, whatever that's called? Who would want to buy that attribute, right?
Right.
And so for this couple, here's the thing. What I just said, they had a policy, higher the death benefit, the more cost, right? So they had an expensive policy, more than they actually needed,
right? Where
the amount of money that was going in was not covering the cost.
Right.
It was basically going to lapse no matter what.
And I would think like probably like what, you're 15, 20, maybe?
Oh yeah, probably.
Policy lapse?
I mean, like, you know what's I admired about this girl? She was younger and she did a lot of research, and she read through some illustrations and stuff, and she's like, Matt, it's like negative. Like every time I put money in, it's more expensive than the money going in. I'm like, you are smart. I like you.
Wow.
Most people don't even get that.
Like when you explain it, it's kind of common sense. It makes sense when it's actually explained to people. Do you think like the person that sold that to her? I really try to give people the benefit of the doubt, man. Like I don't think there's a bunch of people out there trying to screw clients over and stuff like that. But I mean, you got to think though, like, man, you're trying to convince this person to purchase a policy or keep a policy in order to get promoted. Then you bring it down to the very bare minimum, and you have no concerns, you're like a complete disregard of the potential massive negative impact that will have on that person's finances long term. Like, are people like just really not thinking about that at all when they do this kind of stuff?
That's a good question, man. And this goes back to what I said. Nothing is done on accident. These companies have done studies, and they understand the one thing that's more powerful motivator than anything is recognition. And the reason why these agents do all of this stuff is because what's more bigger than doing that is getting recognized on stage in front of your peers for how much business you submitted.
Right.
And so what's happening is they're thinking about, oh, I just closed this business. It's one more closer to my promotion. And they think about the next event. I'm going to be in front of everybody. And they're going to be like, wow, that's how they designed their model, is based on recognition. And they realize the dopamine levels and everything, like what we will do even if it's not logical, we will do things for that dopamine hit. I mean, look at people illogically spending hours on social media. And the hormones are a powerful thing, right? And so they understand the psychology and they understand how to get you to do things, even if it's not in the best interest. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And that's why you have a lot of this stuff. Some of it's ignorance, like some of it's ignorance for sure. But I know a lot of it, it's like, I don't even want to find out because I want to get paid and I want to get promoted. So I'm not even going to find out. I'm just going to just
like, even if you feel like something's a little off here, it's probably not that bad. I'm going to get promoted here. You know, I'm worried about my own stuff.
For sure.
Man, that is just not how financial products should be sold, man. Like,
that's why I'm totally against.
So dangerous.
For sure. I mean, I think, you know, if you're selling lotions and potions, I mean, I know there's people out there that say all MLMs are crooked. I don't know. I don't really do a lot of MLMs, but I think MLMs, when you're dealing with offering financial services, insurance and stuff like that, that's a moral hazard. That should be illegal. I mean, it's just not.
And man, especially the way that some of these things are marketed to, some of the statements I hear IUL agents make is just I don't know how it's legal. You know, when I was talking to Chris the other day, you know, I've seen multiple times just over the past couple of weeks at the time of this recording of IUL agents saying you can never lose money in an IUL. Just those are the exact statements that they make. Guys, for those of you watching, you can and absolutely will lose money in an IUL.
Yeah.
Especially when you're older. It's not usually a problem in the beginning when you're younger, but as you get older, because it's built on annual renewable term, because they tell you can take this ridiculous amount of income every single year for life, because they're showing you getting growth every single year based on stock market performance. If we just use a little bit of common sense, when is the last time the stock market went up every single year? So not only when you're older, you got $1 million loan balance, you have interest to pay on that. When you have a 0 year, and you're 75 years old, your cost of insurance is ridiculous. Maybe your net amount at risk can be managed, but even that means that your policy is failing. Okay. These things can absolutely blow up in your face, especially if they're set up. It's almost guaranteed to happen with the way that that policy was set up that you mentioned, Matt.
Oh, for sure.
With the minimum funding or target funding or whatnot. When it's not designed properly, it literally has no chance of surviving and providing any type of long-term income for you at all.
Here's the funny thing. It's just like when I looked at a lot of these IULs, because a lot of these agents haven't even sold them for more than 2 years, so they don't even know what they're talking about. Their frame of reference is from illustrations. There's no actual thing about it. We have a bunch of people out there, like some financial IUL guru, that came to a conclusion based on no sufficient data.
Right.
Like, what the? Where in the world does that ever happen? Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, my data is what's his name on YouTube? The IUL guy that's always Doug Andrews. I was coached by Doug Andrews. Okay. Well, really, that's sufficient data.
What does that even mean? Who cares?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's funny because I went through all my clients over the last 10 years, and I'm in the process of reaching out, and I've been moving people over to Whole Life. And I haven't looked at every single one, but I looked at most of them. I sold IULs when the market was going sky high. I mean, it was going up and up and up almost the entire time. Right. And during that time, you would imagine at a 13% cap rate, by the way, back then it was like 13%, 15%.
Right.
You would imagine at 13 and 15% cap rate IULs that they would have been performing above 10%, right?
They better be crushing it.
I went back and looked through most of my IULs, a lot of them. The average, some were even 5%, some were even 6% internal rate of return. And there's some that were even 4%. So let's even take the 6%. How the heck do you have a 13% cap and only get a 6% return? And if it's 6%, and if you're only like 0.5% and maybe 1% higher than a whole life policy, why in the world would you put your money into something where it becomes more expensive every year? Like it's nonsensical. Like it doesn't even make sense.
Elon Musk calls it a completely irrational product. And I agree. And I actually extend it a little bit. Completely irrational product and illogical product that defies common sense. Like it just doesn't make any sense when you actually look at these things. And you know, Yeah, like why would you take the risk just to get a few extra potential percentage points of growth when you can get very similar growth in a dividend paying whole life insurance policy? Not to mention, I say this all the time, you can get upside potential, downside protection in the market in a whole life product. So if that's what you're attracted to in an IUL, you can get that in a whole life product. I'm not a fan of it. I don't use my policies for that. But if that's something you want, why on earth? What is the point of IUL? It literally has no point because you can get that without all the problems in an IUL. And the way I describe IUL now is like, for an analogy purpose, just to get people to picture this, right? Is imagine you have your dream house on the hill, on the top of the hill there. It's looking out over the sunset. It is just great. It's marvelous. But then what if I told you when you're 70, 75, 80 years old, there's a really good chance the whole thing's going to collapse because it's on a terrible foundation. At the very least, it's going to cause a lot of problems in the future. Would you buy the dream house at that point? No. That is IUL right there. In one simple explanation. That is exactly what IUL is. And a lot of people just don't know that because of all of these really deceptive marketing practices, man.
That's what a lot of agents, that's what they say is, well, to combat this, you could do this one thing, this one little trick and turn it on. And there's you could just turn it to the left a little bit and swing straight and you can counteract that. So here's my problem with that. And IUL agents will agree. If you're really going to do an IUL, you need that agent to help you manage that IUL every year until you retire.
Yes.
So check this out. IUL agents will agree with that, but yet 90% of agents quit. Right. That's a real good one, right? Real good one. That's a good strategy on that.
Great
one,
argument.
Right? Yeah. And then here's another thing too. Any smart financial person would agree that the last 10 years we're on an upswing in the market, right? Mm-hmm. And if I were to say, what do you think is going to happen in the next 10 years? I haven't met any credible financial people that says the next 10 years is going to be better than the last. Sure. So if the IULs didn't perform as illustrated in the last 10 years, we can probably assume that it's not going to perform any better than the last 10 years. Right. In an environment where it becomes more expensive every year. Right. But let's just talk about that logic. And my question is, have you actually explained that to your client to see if this is a good product that they want to move forward in? And the answer is no. You never talked about it. You never discussed it. Right. And that's, when I get these WFG guys and I say that I get the illustrations because they get their own policy. These are a couple of questions that I ask them. Hey, did they ever tell you that this becomes more expensive over time? They say no. Did they ever tell you can actually lose money? They're like, what? They said you never can. And they said no. Did they ever tell you could never pay off all the insurance? Well, they showed me at 65, I don't have to pay no more. I said, yeah, here's what's happening. Doesn't mean it's paid you are paying. It's coming out of your cash value. You have to pay forever. I mean, their eyes are like, and did they ever tell you this company can change pretty much most of the parameters at any time? Yep. No. Wow. Would you have bought it if you would have known all that? Every single person, they say no.
What's so frustrating about that too is if you can only sell your product, people will only buy it. If you don't disclose those things, you are selling the wrong stuff.
For sure.
And you need to do a little bit of reflection. Right. And again, I don't think, a lot of people are intentionally doing this. Okay. But now that you have the information, now it's really on you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what am I actually doing here? Yeah. And what can I do to rectify the situation? And you have a moral and ethical responsibility to do so at that point, especially if you sold these policies to people. Yeah. And one other thing I want to address that you brought up that I think is really important for the audience to understand is, like you were talking about, like IUL agents will make these arguments like, oh, you can, turn the knob this way or move it to the left with this way. And usually it's like some kind of stupid rider, like overloan protection rider. I saw one the other days. He said it was like a policy lapse protection rider or whatever. So it's all bull crap. Okay. Because even if you have these riders, which you pay for, okay, to keep your policy from blowing up and actually lapsing, which is the worst case scenario, because now you potentially have this massive tax bill, not to mention you just lost all your the money you put in. Okay, so we can stop it from lapsing. What happens to all your money? All the money you put in, all the income you were supposed to get, that is gone. Your policy is vaporized. It did not do anywhere close to what you were illustrating. And I try and think of these analogies to put it in perspective for people. And I thought about this the other day. I was thinking about those stupid arguments that they make about these riders. Like, just don't believe it, guys. It's bullcrap. And like, if you were to go to a car dealership, you purchase a car, it's got all the bells and whistles. It looks really good, right? It's got the good audio system, the rims and all that stuff. But then 3/4 of the way home, the engine blows up. Yeah. Okay. And now you can't get home. All right. And you call up the car dealership like, hey, I just bought this car. I only made it 3/4 of the way home. The engine blew up. What are you going to do? And then the car dealership says, oh, don't worry. We have a tow truck that's going to bring that will take it back to your house. Okay, so you got it back to the house, but now it's useless. I can't do anything with it. The car blew up. Yeah, that's basically these protection riders, because okay, you'll still have your vehicle, the IUL, but it's completely useless. It's blown up at that point.
And that's the thing is, if you read the conditions that have to be met for these riders to actually work, right? Well, think about this. They have the age 75, right? You got to get to 75 for it to actually work out. How do they come up with that age? Well, let me tell you, they probably have some of the smartest people working for them called actuaries. Yep. And they probably determine the probability that you actually making it to 75 is so slim. As a company, we're good. So we're going to have it at that age. They're really good at managing risk on their side too. You know what I mean? They're not going to take on that risk. So there's reasons why they have little contingencies and stuff like that. And the chances of you making it, I don't know. And that's what I'm trying to talk about with agents. IUL agents, if you ask them, they'll argue, well, you don't have to worry about that. Or, well, this is how you overcome it. They have all these damn solutions. There's always trade-offs, right? No solutions, just trade-offs. Right. And then I get back to, I say, okay, I get your argument. Let's bring it back. Let me ask you one question. Could it happen? And they can't deny it. They're like, yes, it can happen. Can you tell me right now to what percentage that can happen? And they can't tell me.
They can't. Yeah,
they can't tell me. So I'm going to sell you some M&Ms. One of them is poisonous and you're going to die. But I don't know how many poisonous ones are in there. There's one in there. It's going to happen. We all agree there's one in there. I just don't know if you're going to eat that one.
Right. It's like playing Russian roulette with your money, man. It's like Rush. Yeah, it's a great analogy. To me, it's just not worth the risk. I wanted to ask you a little bit about because I don't know if like companies like WFG are doing this yet. Because I think it's like an exclusive partnership with like Ethos or whatnot. But I was listening to this podcast the other day talking about these amazing one call close IULs. Have you done any research on that, any experience, and what people should watch out for with stuff like that?
Oh my gosh! So let me.
Like we're talking about people not even taking a sufficient amount of time to learn people's situation. Like you really know so much about what people are trying to accomplish, what their goals are in one call, 15 minutes, really?
Yeah. So this is basically what has happened in the industry that nobody's talking about. The industry is broken up into two sides. There's advanced market and simplified issue. Okay. Simplified issue market, you could generally sell one call closes. And usually it's for like final expense, because that's pretty simple. You could do like mortgage protection, which is basically term insurance, right? Right. And then the advanced market is usually IUL, annuities, whole life, and stuff like that. There's always been a separation. Well, what happened was the entire simplified issue market, where they're trained on selling right away. They're not trained on finding solutions. Right. It's selling fast over the phone, right? Think about this. Think about what happened. So you got a whole hundreds and thousands of agents with that kind of habit built of trying to sell somebody and turn their no into a yes on one phone call, right? You got these skills, right? And so what happened was when the mortgage industry started having problems, there's no more mortgage protection leads. there's no more leads and nobody really wants to sell final expense. So what they did is they transitioned into selling IULs.
Mm.
And then what happened is they didn't like the fact that IULs, it took so long to get underwriting and all this stuff. What is this? I can't get paid tomorrow. So it's this, this, I'm used to getting paid right away to now I got to wait. Right. And what these carriers did is what their solution is, we got these fast approval IULs. You could sell it on one call.
Oh my God, man.
Oh man.
The
stupidity, right?
That is just mind-boggling to me. And I remember before I really started going down this rabbit hole, because I did marketing and life insurance. And I remember speaking to somebody about that. And I had heard about IUL a long time ago. And before I started going down the rabbit hole and I found Chris and you guys, I still assumed like everything that I had learned about IUL to that point was good. It's just amazing product. And he mentioned to me that there was this new revolutionary IUL product coming out where people can get approved right away in like 10, 15 minutes. I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. But now, knowing what I know now, it really makes me sad thinking about all the people that are going to get hurt from this, and like you're so focused on just making money. You say you want to help people, but the real focus is sales. That's it. Like if you're trying to sell an IUL in one call, that's you trying to make money. That's not you trying to help somebody. Like there's like if you're really trying to help people and provide solutions, there is an extensive process that you go through, learning people's current financial situation, what their goals are, what their risk tolerance is, all this other stuff. Because a lot of times it might not be a good fit for them too, and you're just focused on a one call close. Man, that's just sad to me. So
you got to look at the shift with mortgage going down. A lot of loan officers, they came off of a few years with low interest rates, and they were making a lot of money to where it got cut off, right? So think about loan officers on the phone selling mortgages, low interest rate. It was just like the easiest sell.
Sure.
That money dries up, and then they find out they can go into the insurance industry.
Right.
They didn't get in to help people. They get in because it's another vehicle to make money.
Sure.
And that's the difference. And you got a lot of people in the car sales. Think about car salesmen coming into the industry, right? Because you can't sell cars because of high interest rates now. Now they're coming in. I'm not trying to stereotype every car salesman.
Sure.
And if there's some good ones out there, but there are some scumbags. And now they're coming in and they're figuring out I can sell somebody over the phone and get paid in 2 days.
Yeah.
You think they're doing an analysis?
Yeah.
You think they're actually looking in for the best interest? And that's, and I'm not saying everybody. There are some agents that are ignorant. And what I see these ignorant agents doing, and I see their leaders and who they're led by, it's that person. It's that person that actually comes from those industries and they're doing these things. So, and that's just really the problem. And I think hopefully the regulations step up. If they don't, I think with what you're doing, me and Chris, and what we're building over here, I don't care how we do it, but I guarantee when people buy an IUL in the future, it'll be a lot harder to sell it because they're going to come across one of our videos and they're going to think twice. And so we just don't have enough of us. We're not making enough noise, but that day will come.
We're getting there though.
Yeah. And the funny thing is you can't really bash on whole life. Like, what are you going to say?
Nothing of substance. I have yet to hear anything of substance and that actually bashes whole life. It's usually incorrect or just a flat out lie and awful comparison. So you're not going to bash whole life, dude. So a couple final things. I guess like before, there's one more question I want to ask you about for the audience. Like if people do have an IUL and they're learning about this and they're concerned about it, what are their options? But before we get to that, what would you just like some final thoughts? If you can just, if there's WFG agents or really any IUL agent, I don't care if it's WFG or somewhere else, speak to them for a minute or two. Like what message do you have for them, being somebody that you've been in this industry a long time, you've been with those companies, you've sold IUL, you've seen the light basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Speak to them for a couple of minutes. What's your message to them?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned is you got to have a healthy distrust of your thoughts. And sometimes we believe wholeheartedly of our thoughts and the way we're thinking that it's true. And you have to, focus on asking more questions. And I know if you're like in WFG, PHP, these companies, I know it's hard because I think more than wanting to do the right thing, what you're worried about is ending relationships. You're worried about the relationships that's going to be broken. You're going to be worried about the people that you really had a lot of fun and memories with now on the opposite side, and they're not going to like you. And that's really the hard part. This is why they do what they do, is that's why it's hard for people to leave, because they're thinking about the relationships, not doing what's right.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you this, and I swear by it. If I have to be the one that does it, my goal is to make it very difficult for these types of companies to continue to recruit and sell IULs. And I know I already have strategies. I already have things in place. So if you think you're going to long-term have a successful business in that industry, I promise you, these agents are going to do research. They're going to come across some of my videos that I'm going to be releasing, and they will not join your company. So your whole income and reliance on recruiting is going to be blunted. And if you want that kind of business, I suggest you start making changes now. And if you want guidance on how to do that, how to transition without causing issues, without interrupting anything, I can totally coach you without interrupting anything. And I have a way I can help you transition slowly out of it. And we can talk through the whole process. And so that's awesome. Going to be a hard business moving forward. It is going to be a hard business, not only because it's an MLM and you're selling IULs.
Right.
And to me, I don't want a business that becomes harder over time. And at the end of the day, you just got to choose. I want to do the right thing over relationships.
Right.
I want to do the right thing over anything else, because that's why you're in this industry, right?
That's really powerful.
What I say. Yeah, reach out.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I never even really thought about that side of it too. Leaving the relationships, potentially the income as well, if you built up the business, right? Yeah. They
take you on trips. Like, think about
it.
They bring your family and kids on trips, and they have their kids mingle with your kids. They do it on purpose, so you have these memories and you don't want to let go. It's all a freaking scam, dude. I'm telling you, these guys are so good. These are high level narcissists, psychopaths that they just know freaking how to lock you in.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
But here's the thing is, like, you can achieve all of that doing the right thing. Like, I can speak to, as an agent of Life 180, and I could speak to your coaching as well and your support. I mean, you're amazing, man. You're an amazing mentor, amazing coach, amazing part of the team. I know I could go to you for anything, any help that I need, so the support's there. We have the most powerful financial asset in the world that we sell, dividend paying whole life insurance. It's never going to hurt anybody. Okay. You can make really good money. You can build your own agency and recruit if you want. These companies will pay for these amazing trips that you can get based on your production. So you can get all of that, but then you can sleep at night knowing that you're actually helping people here. We're actually providing solutions, and we're not just worried about, one call closes and selling IUL and making, as much money as possible. Because also, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that we set policies up, again, depending on people's situation, we lower our commission. So we don't of course we want to make money, but that is not the priority. It's not why we get into this business. Right. We get into this business to help people, and you help enough people, you're going to get what you want too. So you can have all of that success with an agency like Life 180, and I get that it would be a tough transition, but you got to think long-term and can you really sleep at night now? No, with this information, can you sleep at night going one more day in an organization like that, selling a product like that? I would like to think no, but it's awesome that they can reach out to you and help with that transition. I would love to learn more about that as well. And anyway, I know we're bashing WFG a little bit and IUL and stuff, but here's the thing: is like you said earlier, not all IUL agents and WFG agents are trying to hurt people. These are good people. They're just misinformed, right? So I want to make sure that we keep the door open, like, when you have seen the light here and you see what's actually going on and you want to make that transition, to me, there's no better place to do it than with people like you and mentors like you and the Life 180 team. So I'll have some resources down in the description. If you're an agent watching this and you want to have a conversation about that, we welcome you with open arms, because we want, I know too that the more people we get on board with this, the more they're going to speak out about it too. Sure. And it's that snowball effect. The more noise we can make, like you said, with more people, that's how we're going to make this change, right? And save people from getting hurt from this stuff. So yeah, good stuff, man. Last thing I wanted to ask for people that have IULs, or even agents like you were talking to earlier, that have these policies that want to get out of them. What are typically the requirements, and what are usually their options for getting out of them?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Everybody's in a different situation. There's not a one answer for everything. Some people do have the ability to be able to move that cash value and maybe into a whole life, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Some people, it might be too early on. They might not have any cash value, and this might be the first time you actually learn you don't have access to your money. There's just a lot of scenarios. There's never really so much solutions. There's just trade-offs. You're probably going to lose in some way. So now it's just a matter of to what degree. Right. And I think even if you think it's good and it's set up right, I would just there's nothing wrong with the second opinion, and maybe I'll bet you'll learn more about it than you were told. I could probably promise you that you'll know more about it than you were told by the agent, and I think it'll be a learning experience at the worst.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, it's all about just getting a couple of different opinions, going through those in-force illustrations, know what your options are. Maybe it makes sense to 1035 exchange out. Maybe you have to wait a few years. Just everybody's going to be a little bit different, but
lower the death benefit, put less in,
just know that you do have options. All right. And at the very least, at least make sure that it was set up correctly, which it probably wasn't, but yeah. All right, man. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up with that. Any final thoughts? Anything else that you want to share? Anything I didn't ask that you think is really important for people to know?
No, man, I think, if everybody just watched this video, I think they would come to the conclusion they need to ask more questions. I mean, if you watch this video and you don't have that innate feeling like I need to figure some stuff out, I don't think this industry is for you. I'm gonna be straight up. I just don't think so. If you think you have all the answers and you want to not be open to what was said in here and not let it in, you don't belong in this industry. You just don't. You should probably leave. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you're gonna end up hurting people, man.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I agree 100%. So, well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. You're just a wealth of knowledge about this. You've been a huge part of my journey. So, I'm forever grateful to you and the rest of the team, man. Proud to be on the front lines with you guys. Yes. Get the message out.
We're gonna have some fun, man. 2024. Get ready.
Yeah, man. I'm definitely looking forward to more conversations with you on the channel. So we'll definitely set that up. Make sure you guys check out the links in the description. We're gonna have a ton of resources to reach out and learn more about IUL, whole life, joining the team and all that. Be pretty cool to get more people on board. So, Matt, thank you so much for the conversation, and we'll talk to you in the next one. All right.
Yep.
All right, brother.